Hey class, welcome to the first notes video for our new unit, Unit 7, which is all about waves. And today we're going to talk about wave properties, or specifically just the descriptive part of a wave. So how do we define a wave? How are we talking about it? So a wave is a thing that moves in what's called oscillatory motion. Basically, it goes back and forth. It repeats itself over and over and over again. And when we think of a wave, we think of something like you see on the screen here. We think of maybe the ocean waves, or we think of going to the pool. We think of maybe a slinky, things that repeat itself like this. Now, I'll also talk about sound waves and light during this unit. But it's important that we really just define what a wave is in itself. And there are some important aspects to this wave that we need to define. And so we're going to talk about what those 5 different aspects of a wave are that we're going to define. And as we do that, I need you to make sure that you go ahead and draw yourself a wave like this in your notes. And that way you can start defining as well. So I'm going to put just the wave on the page here. And the first thing we want to talk about is something called the amplitude. So the amplitude is this section here. I'm going to put an A there because that's how we represent amplitude. It can be here or it can be here. It's either one. But for our definition, so amplitude, represented by an A, is the distance from the center of a wave to a maximum. So it's that amplitude. It's the height of the wave, or the depth of the wave if you're looking at the bottom side. The next thing we want to talk about is something called wavelength. So wavelength is from peak to peak. It's represented by this called a lambda. From peak to peak or trough to trough there. So this is called wavelength. Represented by lambda. And it is the distance from one maximum to another. And lastly, we want to talk about something called frequency, which we're going to draw along the bottom here like this. Frequency is represented with a fancy looking F. And we'll scroll up a little bit for this definition here. And frequency, sorry, not E, but C, fancy F, is the number of wavelengths per second. How many waves per second are crossing a threshold? So those are the 3 big ones for waves that we want to be able to describe: wavelength, frequency, and amplitude. Now there's 2 other terms we want to make sure that we get, and it's that these top parts here are called crests here, and down below they're called troughs. Just gives us some clear words what I mean, the top and the bottom of a wave. But that helps us kind of figure out, hey, what does a wave actually look like? What's the point of a wave? And so we can see how it looks like. And in the lab today, you're going to actually be applying and measuring these things. You're going to be measuring amplitudes and wavelengths. You're going to be timing the frequency. You're going to be relating that to how quickly a wave actually moves. Now, there's one other type of wave we want to talk about and just make quick mention of it. And it's something called a compression wave. There's some fancier terms for it we'll learn. But right now we're just going to call it a compression wave. And this is how sound moves. So instead of moving up and down, it moves side to side. So think about taking a slinky and pressing it in and then having it go out like a spring that goes in and out and in and out and in and out. So with this, we can see, so this arrow here, right here, this is going to be your amplitude. Wavelength would be from compression to compression. So it's important to realize that they operate the same way, but instead of going up and down and having peaks, they go in and out and have either compressions, which are going to be these parts here, compressions, or they're going to have expansions, which are the parts that are really far out from each other. So similar, again, peaks or crests and troughs. Now we have compressions, expansions. And we'll dig more into it. It's just nice to have this, this information kind of in our back pocket. So super quick, easy notes, getting us going. So guys, if you have questions, come ask. And remember, don't forget to be awesome.